Hello, this is James Hunter, and today I'm going to speak about some issues regarding people who may be seeking help from a therapist, a coach, life coach, mentor, or perhaps they just, lean towards people or move in the direction towards people that can be perceived as a helping type of relationship, if you will, right? As far as trying to find a medium, if you will, relationship that's going to help them facilitate making changes or compelling them to do the things that they feel they need to do, perhaps just to have better mental health or self-improvement, help to be a healthier person overall, right? Different aspects of health for sure that can be said. So this interesting thing is that this observations I've made over the years is that where are the thresholds, right? In terms of the utility of a relationship to help somebody to change or to improve themselves. Where's that threshold to perhaps, is it unproductive anymore? Has it reached a threshold of diminishing returns, right? In terms of affecting some type of actual true sustainable long-term change. So I want to talk about this issue, but before I get into it and speak more about it, I want to differentiate between different things so people do not get confused or try to lump everything in one box together, right? So there are certain individuals who might be in therapy for a number of years, right? A number of years working through various issues, such as individuals who have significant, severe trauma in their life, right? There can be different examples of severe trauma, whether it's from childhood, something in their adulthood, something that's a very devastating, traumatic type of a stress that happened to them in their life. You get the idea. So individuals with something like this, yeah, that's this in this issue, they may need someone to just work on this. It can be an extended, longer process in their life, and being able to not just work through these issues to maybe reprocess things, how do they cope with it, being able to have maybe just to manage it, right, with PTSD. And it could be just an ongoing process to where a person gets to a better state in their life to be able to be functional, to be functionable, to be more stable, if you will. So in these situations, in these cases of people that may be in therapy for extended periods of time throughout their life, maybe they've had multiple therapists perhaps for different reasons, the situation with them could be like I mentioned, examples of trauma, other issues that are a bit more complex, more involved for what their needs are, and also what they require to be able to be healthy, right? To achieve that stability of their mental health. Other reasons people might require therapy for more extended, longer periods of times is because they just may simply have more or different issues that become emergent in their life. So maybe they come to therapy again because perhaps, it's a different area of focus that can happen, different domains in our life for sure. Relationships, career, for example, physical health, mental health, existential issues, and so on. So someone might have been in therapy a few times or different periods over the last, 10 years of their life, for example. And these situations, though, as I mentioned, maybe it's just they're coming back to therapy for different issues, right? Understandable, that can happen. Emergent issues, different things. Perhaps they acquired what they needed the first time around in therapy for the issues that they dealt with that time. They're fine, they're doing great, but then something else comes along. And so they either need some different tools or maybe help with other insights. So then they come back to therapy again. So these are reasons, and just a couple examples, people with trauma, extended period of time to be able to work through that, especially with very serious forms of trauma for sure. And people, you just may have emergent issues, things that are different, right? So these are some reasons, just a couple, there can be more, for why it's reasonable and understandable an individual does require a therapist, right? For a longer period of time. In fact, it's needed to help them be able to manage, be functionable, to be okay, in other words, to feel stable. So they really need that support in this context to achieve what's needed. Now, so these examples I'm given are not going to be the ones I'm speaking to in the direction I'm about to go into in this video. So to be clear, the people or the types of individuals I'm going to speak about in this individual with regards to the behaviors has to do with people that it's not an issue of trauma. They're not in therapy because they have a severe trauma and those type of issues. I'm not speaking about people who may have something more underlying that's maybe more of a medical issue that requires more of a medical approach, like a psychiatrist. Maybe they're on medication, or has something that's a bit more just chronic, long-term, that they're just going to have to manage it for the rest of their life, right? For some people have situations like that. So I'm not speaking about individuals like that. I'm speaking about individuals who otherwise, would be considered to be intact with a reasonable amount of aptitude, capacity, ability, intelligence, potentiality. In other words, there's what they have, what they're equipped with, and what they're bringing to therapy is sufficient, right? In terms of what you could imagine, what would be the possibility for what they could end up achieving, right? So in other words, they got a pretty good, reasonable foundation in place. And so these are the types of people I'm speaking about. So if individuals over the years that maybe perhaps they're coming to therapy because it's a motivation problem, or perhaps they have issues with, boundaries with individuals, or perhaps they have issues with being able to prioritize any number of things in their life that they either believe they're supposed to place value on, or things that they're thinking that they should value. So this also goes into the area of what I call awareness versus insight. So I get a lot of individuals that when we're working on in therapy or helping any type of a helping relationship, if you will, right? Such as people who want to improve their communication skills. They say they do. They say they want to improve the intimacy of their marriage or relationship. They may even want to be able to have any number of set outcomes. Maybe it's with a job, with their physical health, mental health, right? They go together. They're wanting to improve their physical health, right? They're wanting to improve their overall health, mental health, physical health, relationships. You get a lot of things we can improve in our life that contributes to our overall sense of experience of mental health. So in these situations, as the case is, a lot of individuals will view their ability or the reason they're going to start pulling the trigger and practicing the behaviors and tools and things that are necessary to give them the outcome that they say they want to have, is that they have this idea of viewing that the way that happens is it's from outside themselves, right? So it's my therapist. I need to have the right therapist, right? And there is something to be said. Yeah, you want to have a good fit, rapport, find a therapist that's a good match for you. But definitely, you need a therapist that's going to be honest too, right? You don't want a therapist that just tells you what you want to hear all the time. It's not going to help you with insight, right? So the therapeutic relationship is important. It's good to have a good fit. Sure enough, that's a good thing, right? At the same time, if an individual has, is coming to a new therapist and mentions how they've already had 13, 15 different therapists over the last maybe 12, 15 years, right? And perhaps they might have an itemized list of everything they did not like about those therapists and why that was a reason why they weren't making the changes they needed to do. And only if they just get the right therapist, then when they have that, then they're able and willing to do the things necessary that they need to do to get the result, right? Better mental health, physical health, better boundaries, et cetera, improve my sleep, whatever it is. You get the idea. There's a lot of things that you can see within the realm of mental health for improvement. So in this situation, these type of individuals are internalizing the locus for control, or how cause and effect happens, where the power is at, is that they're kind of dismissing it towards outside themselves, right? It's outside themselves. It's not them. It's never them. They're not the ones, right? Because there is a threshold here that a therapist does have a role. It's like trying to help shine a flashlight into the dark to help a client see better, right? To help them, take that awareness and move into the realm of insight, more insights to their life, right? But at a certain point, when a client is educated enough with enough tools, right? Whether it's things needed to have and develop better emotional intelligence, demonstrate emotional availability, right? Emotional availability is more of a decision than it is an inability at the end of the day. There's reasons why people are choosing to not be emotionally available. That's a different video. I have one on that. So at a certain point, a person does have the tools. They've been educated. They are the I'm aware of it, but yeah, but, or I understand what you're saying. And yes, a lot of people have told me the same thing, but, right? So at the end of the day, when people have an awareness and they will acknowledge something, as a simply acknowledging it makes it okay, it does not. They will say, for example, yeah, I know, but. What they're really saying is they're not going to do anything to change it. What they're really saying is that it's not important. Not important enough to make a priority to execute and practice a new behavior. So a lot of times individuals will bring back a grievance again and again and again. And when a therapist or anyone else who might be trying to help the individual will ask them, well, did you practice, the script we use for communication? Did you practice seeking to show understanding and invalidate the person's feelings first? Did you try doing that first? And then afterwards, sure, you need to seek to be understood, become available to let them know how you feel about the situation, become emotionally available. And then also discuss, what can help it, right? It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about trying to create understanding. Well, yeah, I know, but, and of course they didn't do it. So this is the lack of insight by default. They refuse, an individual like this refuses to pull the trigger and execute a new behavior, right? So this is a situation where sometimes people by default are resistant to changing because although the way that they behave is unhealthy and dysfunctional, for them, that's what feels comfortable. And if they are internalizing that this still gets my needs met, then why do I need to change it? I'm still getting my needs met. So where this cause and effect is, right? What's causing what to happen? Well, it's not the therapist's fault. It's not the coach's fault. Football players, right? Maybe blaming the coach, right? After they've, helped you learn to play 20 times, right? Maybe 100 times. The coach's fault. So the thing is, at a certain point, where does the responsibility lie? At a certain point, the therapist does have a role. There's a threshold facilitating things. But in order for an individual to internalize the value of doing something, that it has to be something that comes within them. Because at the end of the day, that's what it does boil down to. It's the value you see in doing something. If you do not see the value in doing something, you will not make it a priority, right? Kind of like people sometimes might show up and say, well, I don't want to talk too much about my feeling stuff. I'm not into that. I just want to do this. And they're already telling you what it can look like in order for the help to happen to them, as if what they've been doing has been clearly not working, right? But they're already going to tell you sometimes, this is what you can do, this is what you can't, my last therapist, etc., which a lot of times can be red flags, right? That they don't want to have to listen to anything that may be the truth. They don't like hearing the truth, or don't confuse me with facts type of a person, and or they've already determined what's important and what's not. Because how a person internalizes their belief about a problem in a situation, and more specifically, what their belief is for how they think it can be solved, is everything, right? So as a general example, sometimes someone might show up to therapy and right off the bat, they're already dismissive of what they've decided can help them to improve. So I'm here to solve this, and I'm assigning to you the task of getting me to solve it. Never mind, I'm gonna strap you and handicap you by telling you what you can't use to help me. So I don't want to talk about no feelings or emotions, right? So right off the bat, the interpretation is, if you go with what we're willing to prioritize or not prioritize, of what's important to that person. So an individual like this, what they're saying is emotions are important, they have no place. And there you go. There's a lack of insight, right? Or resistance to change. So the thing is, emotions have tremendous utility in mental health, right? They're very vital. Emotional intelligence is a huge component of our mental health, our wellness, because it is through our emotions and feelings, when based on a rational interpretation of situations, that do provide us feedback and help us gain insights and influence behaviors. Emotions and feelings, when we are available to provide them to other people, helps to define a relationship, help it feel more predictable, helps the other person feel more secure with you and less anxious, right? The opposite would be when I choose to be emotionally unavailable and not give this information to people, because that's what emotions and feelings are. They're information, they're data that helps define relationships better. So if we refuse to give that information, which can be not just some people like to chalk it up a lot to, oh, it's vulnerability. Not necessarily. It's not necessarily a vulnerability issue a lot of times. A lot of times it can be a control issue. It's like a poker game. Who has the advantage? A person who tells the other person what their cards are all the time? Or the person who keeps their cards close to the chest, right? Don't tell you what their cards are. Well, the person who shares the least information, like in a poker game, totally has the upper hand and the advantage if you're talking placing bets, right? So relationships are cooperation of sharing power, quite frankly, in a lot of regards. So this situation of emotional availability, it is important if you want a healthy relationship with yourself and other people. Now, emotions and feelings, if they're not based on a rational way of thinking, we need to reconsider it, reframe the situation, get a more rational, healthier way, bigger picture, right? What would somebody else say? As how I'm thinking about something, fact or fiction, right? Any evidence, maybe I do need to consider a more rational way to interpret something, and then consider a more congruent emotion and feeling that fits the situation will be better for me. So we definitely need to do that for sure. We don't just like knee-jerk reaction, consider an emotion and then make a decision. We don't do that, and that's not what's being said. So the point is, people want to decide what's important, what's not important for how they can be helped. Now, there is something to be said of meeting people where they're at and definitely rolling with resistance. And maybe eventually they do come around. They do start to see a bit more clearly, and that can happen too. But at a certain point, you cannot force somebody to want to internalize or see the value in anything, because at the end of the day, that's what's required in order to prioritize it. So people need to internalize the value of themselves, hopefully, right? You see the value in yourself, whether it's for health improvement issues, right? I see the value in myself to prioritize exercising. I see the value in the exercise because of what the benefits it does for my life. My motivation doesn't wake me up in the morning. My values wake me up in the morning. The fact that I place value on my health, the fact that I respect myself, physical health, and my overall health as a person, that is what wakes me up in the morning. The value I place on exercising wakes me up in the morning to work out at 5 o'clock in the morning. Motivation not required. Motivation can kind of go up and down. Maybe it's just the value that people internalize in doing things. Maybe that's the greatest factor here. My opinion, I believe it is in the bigger picture. Anything that is internalized by a person as being very important, there's a great chance that that's going to happen in their life. They're going to prioritize it, whatever it is. Video games, going fishing, any type of entertainment that someone is internalizes as being fun. So as far as a person and what they internalize, what they place value on, there's a lot of thoughts on this, like where does this come from? Where does it start? You can talk about a family culture, the values of parents, which dictated what they prioritize while raising the children, right? By default, whatever the values are of parents dictates what they're going to prioritize with their behaviors, right? And within the family situation. And by default, a child typically has, they don't have no choice as children, right? For sure, when you're a little kid, but you have no choice but to learn to feel comfortable with whatever that looks like. So it becomes your relative normal, right? A lot of people learn to feel comfortable with a lot of things because what's their option, right? Have no choice but to feel comfortable with a situation because they depend on the parents to take care of them. Of course, get older later in life and perhaps, they can consider other values or other situations and learn a new normal for sure. Totally possible. So how we internalize the value of things can be influenced by a lot of stuff, including family culture and parenting. Some people might call it programming, right? It's just by default, those behaviors are kind of right. It is a bit of programming because you don't know anything in the world. When you're born as an infant, a child, you're a blank slate. And the only way you gain information or beliefs and ideas for how things work is through experience, including relationships, right? So the first ones are your parents and then your family. So these can become, if you will, templates or programming or ideas and beliefs for for how you think how relationships work, and more specifically, how you feel about yourself in one, and also, how you internalize the value of things. What types of values were promoted in your family? So years ago, back in the 90s, the late 90s, I was at a conference for for my CEUs that I have to do for my mental health license. So at this particular training, they were speaking to this idea or studies about, simply put, to not undermine the own intrinsic interest of children, right? So basically speaking is that if a child already enjoys doing something, do not overly reward them for it, right? So let's say a child is making straight A's in science and math, and you're doing good, right? Well, don't start overly rewarding them for it, like doing like too much of a overkill of the rewards, because the child can start to internalize, well, maybe do I really enjoy this if I'm having to be paid to do it, right? Or bribed almost, right? They kind of maybe question the value of it. In other words, I have to be paid to do it, versus just allowing that natural process where a child does internalize the value of something. They love math and science, for example, right? Don't need to overly reward them. Yeah, you can tell them great job, we're proud of you, but overly rewarding, yeah, it's a possible concerns there, or possible risk, right? Maybe you might undermine their own intrinsic interest of something that they already like to do. So as far as other things are concerned, right, life is, or people in life, it's very interesting in terms of why and how, or we come about valuing different things. So the point is in this video that I want to make sure I circle back to and stay on. Where's the thresholds, right? Where enough is enough. A person simply just needs to take responsibility. People need to, quite frankly, call them out on it, hold them accountable, redirect them back to themselves when it comes to things that need to change in that person's life, right? So people who've been talking about any number of goals, that they need to change this, I need to do that. I just, I'm not motivated to do it. Well, I need to get to therapists again. I need to get me a life coach, or I need to hire that guy I saw on the podcast. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. And that's my next way forward to make something happen, right? So this is backwards thinking. After all, it's backwards thinking. It's not productive. Because in this sense, your capacity to even be what you need to be is always contingent on having to be tethered to another person there to maybe keep you accountable or make you to do it, right? And so this is perhaps first order change, right? If that person's gone from your life, then what's your reason to change? It's gone. Just like men who might say, I'm coming to therapy because I need to stop drinking alcohol so my wife will not leave me, right? To which I would say, well, what if your wife leaves you anyways? And then what she divorces you? What's your reason to not drink anymore? It's gone, right? Yeah, it sounds like you value your wife, don't want her to divorce you, but what if she divorces you anyways? What's your reason to get serious about getting in a program to quit alcohol, right? Have a real program of recovery, not just talk about it, right? Or come up with reasons why it's not going to happen, or speak about using a language in a way that's dismissive for why you're not going to change. I understand, but, or I know that you're not wrong, but. So yeah, dismissive. Speaking about things in a narrative that promotes feeling comfortable staying the same versus promoting change. So that's very important, very important. So this threshold with when this happens, right? So a lot of you watching this video perhaps have been connected to a person in your life that there's this cycle of them wanting your help to change something. Maybe they seek it out from other people, but there's no sustained change. They never sustain any real change. It always reverts back to the old habits, old patterns, only for them to be dismissive and have reasons for why that happened, right? It's because of this or that, or if this happened, right? So in this sense, if you continue to participate in those relationships with people like that, you are allowing them to hold you hostage. They are holding you hostage with their life and problems that they speak in a dismissive language about for why they're not going to change it. And then they're assigning that responsibility to you for it to change. By default, they are, right? If they're involved in you. At the same time, they don't change it, right? So yeah, I call it taking you hostage with a problem that I'm not going to fix it or change it, right? So you're my captive forever. I got you. You help me, but I'm going to make sure it doesn't get solved or changed. So there's a whole other issue of that, right? Maybe it's some codependency, or people in a roundabout way without realizing it, or maybe they do realize it, is that this way of being actually keeps people, and they think that keeps people in their life. That's how I keep people in my life, by being this way. I always got everybody hostage around me, right? So with my problems, I'm not going to really, truly are not ready to change in terms of seeing the value in making changes, whether it's I need to prioritize my sleep, right? Most sleep problems are behavior modification issues, boundaries with environment. Most of them really are. It's just programming yourself when sleep needs to occur and when you get up. It's called, you use the D word, discipline, right? But that takes an effort. So a lot of people will, well, I'm still having this issue, that issue. And then if you follow up with them, well, what's your sleep schedule been like? Lo and behold, no changes. Still staying up watching YouTube or Netflix, right? Ordering a pizza at 11 p.m. There you go. Well, maybe not a pizza, but other stuff, right? So you get the idea. This is kind of just describing the water, as they say, and not swimming. Well, describing the water is not going to help you if you're drowning, right? You need to swim. So there's a lot can be said about these issues. People's ambivalence with changing, how they think change can happen in their life. Will they ever internalize the value of doing something, right? To prioritize it. That's the biggest thing there too, right? But as far as this issue, so-called goals are not goals anymore, but people hide behind their goals, right? Because if I just say I have a goal and I say, yeah, I understand, but, or I know, yeah, it's not sufficient anymore. That's not enough, but that's what's happening. So at a certain point, goals are not goals. Goals are decisions in terms of what you're going to prioritize as a function of where you place value, what's important to you. So at the end of the day, change must come through with you. Change comes from you. It's internalized, right? You are the agent of change. I internalize myself as how things will happen in my life, right? I cause it to happen. I prioritize things when I'm ready to, and I see the value in doing it, right? So that's the age. This is the means by which you're going to get any outcome in your life with any kind of changes. It's not going to come from outside of you. You can't have somebody make you do something. You can't have somebody force you to value something, right? It's like, it's not going to work. That's not sustainable. Yeah, you can force somebody to do something for a period of time, just like in certain incarceration situations, like maybe federal prison. It's difficult to do drugs in federal prison, right? But I guess possible, technically, right? Yeah, sometimes people get drugs in prison, right? But in prison, much more difficult. It's a controlled environment. Yeah, so you can be forced to not use cocaine for 5 years or smoke weed for 5 years in prison. As soon as you get out, first day back in the having your freedom, boom, first thing you do is smoke a joint or go do a line of cocaine. Yeah, because that was not sustainable. You never really changed. It was just being forced upon you, right? So in a similar sense, we cannot see change in our life as being sustainable as long as there's always something like over our shoulder, right? Whether it's a mentor, a coach, life coach, the therapist, etc. Now, it's okay to internalize people in a healthy way. Yeah, I might internalize what my therapist once taught me one time. What would my therapist think about this, perhaps, right? What would my professor back in the day? Yeah, my professor, what would she say? Yeah. So internalizing people with regards to their values, perhaps, what would they might say in a healthy way that maybe help you focus and then consider your value of something, make a decision. Nothing wrong with that, because you're not assigning the responsibility to the in an external way for you to be able to do something. You're just maybe just using it as a reference while considering your own values and then what you decide to do. So my thoughts are this: if you know people like this in your personal life, that you feel like they're trying to take you hostage by assigning to you the responsibility for all their problems, that somehow you're the reason, or you're the agent, if you will, through which they can change, or you are what's required for them to be able to make those changes, and it's obvious they're not prioritizing the behaviors and things they need to do to bring about those changes, and this is clearly a pattern, then my thoughts and opinions about this is someone you need to have some firm boundaries with. Do not allow yourself to be taken hostage, right? Oh, I got you now. I got you my hostage with all my problems I'm not going to solve deliberately by refusing to prioritize certain things. So if it is an individual like this, you need to have some pretty strict rules and limits with them, right? Hey, it sounds like maybe you need to go pay somebody to listen to you talk about this stuff you never change. Go hire a therapist, right? There you go. I get paid to listen to people. And well, we're out to try to help people, right? Not simply listen, try to help them build insight, hopefully, right? So yeah, talk to a therapist, or hey, so I'm hearing you say you want to bring up this issue that you've been talking about pretty much, every day or for the last 5 years, and you are feeling frustrated with it, or you appear to say you appear to feel frustrated with it, right? That's how you feel. I can appreciate it, but to be honest with you, I feel uncomfortable having to listen to you talk about the same things over and over again. And perhaps, if I'm being honest, I feel annoyed by it too. You don't appear to be willing to place any value or respect for any of the things people try to help you with, because you are dismissive of it all the time. So I'm done trying to offer any support with this issue, because I don't feel you value or respect the support that's even offered, right? So I no longer want to participate in this. Let's talk about something different. The weather, right? Yeah, let's talk about sports. Something different, but not this anymore. So you have to have a firm boundary and enforce it too, by the way, when they don't respect it. Then you have to just relegate them to having less access to you in your life. So you have to have boundaries with people like this, because you're not helping them. You're not. You're just enabling this cycle of what they do with people. And perhaps, someone's a therapist at a certain point. A lot of therapists I've talked to and about these related type issues. At a certain point, if the client doesn't appear to be progressing anymore, then they might need to refer them right to someone different, and so on. Because there are limitations. There are limitations to psychotherapy, right? Psychotherapy is not a magic bullet, magic wand. It does require reasonable prerequisites and reasonable efforts, on both sides, the therapist and the client. It's a relationship, a working relationship. So these are just some thoughts. I keep rambling, right? I could go on different angles. This video, a lot of things, you might try to take away from it, but the top ones are this. If you're trying to maybe change something in your life, and perhaps you're feeling frustrated, maybe you've had you've had 5 different personal trainers, you've had 10 therapists for mental health stuff. Maybe you've had whichever said guru who can be hired from YouTube because they have a podcast and they're going to help you, right? So maybe you've been through a bunch of different situations that were helping type of relationships. And if you honestly have been given a lot of facts and tools and things that definitely, it's not a mystery anymore, but for some reason, perhaps you don't feel or believe or think you're where you, to use the should word, there's technically no such thing as should. It's a distortion, but let's say you're thinking, I should already be here. How come it's not happening, right? Well, I would encourage you to be honest in regards to, do your behaviors, not what you're saying, your behaviors, do they demonstrate as evidence that you are prioritizing the very things that need to happen in order for you to achieve your outcome? Whether it be prioritizing a healthier sleep schedule, prioritizing executing the verbal communication skills necessary to have boundaries with people, practicing different behaviors that do not represent your old behaviors, opposite ones, right? Yeah. Are you doing those things? Because if you're not, then it's not a mystery. You're not getting results because you're not willing to execute and practice the changes. Change in your life is just not going to happen magically. You have to get off the couch, right? Get off the couch and change the channel, right? Perhaps, right? Or change your own life. Life doesn't have a remote. You got to get up and change it. It's not going to happen to you. Your purpose and meaning will not fall out of the sky in a suit, in a briefcase, and be assigned to you. You got to get your butt off the couch, start getting engaged with life, doing the things that need to happen. And through a process of trial and error, you'll get a better idea what your values are, what's meaningful, and create some purpose and meaning in your life. Because by default, if you're not doing that, then you're just floating around, and maybe you're assigning it to other people to give it to you. Just like assigning to other people the responsibility for you to have changes in your life. So I hope this is helpful. Whoever's listening to this, and maybe for yourself, right? Or just maybe people in life you're connected to in a healthy way. You can call people out in a healthy, respectful way. Hey, so what I'm hearing you say is that, you got this issue and you're feeling frustrated. That's how you feel. I can appreciate that. But if I'm being honest, it appears that you continue to repeat the same patterns. It also appears that when support and help is offered to you, you are not taking that to heart to prioritize it, to place any value on doing anything different, right? So we need to be honest with people in a supportive way. I'm not saying to be mean or in an antagonistic way. So anyways, this is Sunday. I just wanted to make a video today, and I got a bit rambly because it's Sunday. I haven't even shaved, right? I got my 2-day whisker situation going on. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, and if you haven't, I would consider you to look at my channel. I have a variety of topics: mental health, physical fitness, other topics of interest on this channel. And I speak about different things kind of within the wellness, categories, if you will, and other stuff. So you can like the video perhaps too. I'd appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel too. So if you are interested in other topics, like I mentioned, take a look at my channel. You can even feel free to drop a suggestion for other issues. So for those of you who have never seen any of my videos, again, my name is James Hunter, and I'm almost 53 years old in a few months, but I've worked in the mental health field for quite a bit of time, since 1996. About 28 years in the mental health field. I've also worked in the physical fitness industry, right? And that's my credentials, my biceps, right? Yeah. So anyways, I've worked in physical fitness as well. So I have a strong appreciation for how everything ties together from a holistic approach: physical fitness, mental health, career domains, relationships, if you will, existential beliefs. All of these domains are very important systemically, how they contribute to the whole person. So if you can appreciate stuff like that, like I said, subscribe to the channel, and there's gonna be more stuff on that. And I'll be putting out some other videos on my fitness and my 50s series playlist. I'm gonna keep bringing that about. So thank you for listening, and have a good day. Thank you.